Hi, my name is Tom, and I'm 72 years old, almost 72 and a half. In a couple of days, I'll be 72 and a half. I was born in June, early June. And I want to share with you my story about weight loss. It began actually when I was about 50, a little after, maybe 51. It seemed to me my metabolism just completely collapsed. That I used to complain to my wife. I said, gravel in the road burns more calories than I do. And I think that that was not exactly accurate. But what was happening is my metabolic system was broken, and I was too stupid to know it, too ignorant to know it. Probably too stupid too. In any case, I want to share with you how I lost about 70 pounds in the last year. And let's see, probably in total, I've lost about 75 pounds in total. In 2000, my wife and I went to Weight Watchers, and I lost about 20 pounds, and my weight had ballooned up to about 230. And I lost down to about 215. And for some reason or another, I just hit a sticking point, and I couldn't go any further, and I wasn't losing, and we just sort of gave up on that. And my weight began to balloon up. It got up to 255, at least 255, definitely over 250. And that was probably about 2008. And I was kind of despondent because, look, I wasn't the kind of guy that was eating a lot of cakes, a lot of candy, I was just eating normal stuff. I'd get up in the morning, and I was doing what I thought was healthy. I'd have a bowl of bran cereal and milk, but my weight just kept getting more and more and more. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So about 2 years ago, now this is when I turned 70, and I'd gotten my weight down to about between 235 and 240. And I'm only 5'7", so that's a lot of weight to be carrying. And my color wasn't good. And I had some trouble about a year before that with fatty liver, and the doctor told me, this is completely solvable, you just have to cut out eating fat. Well, that's not right. Doctors don't always know what they're talking about when it comes to nutrition. And they gave me basically a starvation diet. And I looked at that and I said, I'm not going to do that. There's no way I'm going to do that. I've got to do something else. So anyway, a friend of mine I went to graduate school with, who was, I was studying music at the time, and he came to get his master's degree in the same program I was in, getting a master's in performance in music. But he was a medical doctor, and he was from the Philippines. He stayed here in America and ran a clinic down in Florida for all these many years, since 1971 or something like that. Anyway, he sent me this book, and this was a couple years ago. It's called Grain Brain, and it's a pretty thick book. It's very well documented, well studied, and my friend, Benny is his name, is not the kind of guy to go off and wacky stuff. So I thought, all right, well, I'll take a look at this, and I scanned through it. I'm really not a real reader. I only read the things I just have to, because I'm just incredibly interested in them. But I don't pick up and read stuff for pleasure. But the idea was that grains really kind of mess you up. They mess you up, mess your thinking up. And I noticed that in some degree, my thinking was not as clear as it was. And I was just sort of accepting, said, I'm just getting older, I'm just getting fatter, and there's nothing I can do about it. And even when I went on really starvation diets, so everything just crashed. And I didn't lose any weight at all, but I felt miserable. even more miserable than I was with my weight way up. So I thought, okay, so I'll cut out, no, this is 3 years ago actually, so I'll cut out eating this brand cereal, and that's what I did. And that's really what got my weight down from about 240 to about 235, or somewhere between 230 and 235. But I couldn't seem to get any lower than that. And I was eating a normal diet, and I'm not talking just a normal diet, anyone would call a normal diet. I wasn't eating a lot. And this is another thing, people look at fat people and they say, oh, look what a pig, this guy eats too much. But did they look at someone who's bald and say, look what a slovenly guy, he never takes care of his hair? No, they say, that's genetic. He can't help the fact that he's bald. It's genetic. It's, what do they call it? Male pattern something or other. So male pattern hair loss. And so I was eating, if most people ate the amount of food that I ate, they would say, hey, I need to eat a little more food. But I wasn't losing any weight at all. So I saw this program with Jordan Peterson talking about, this is now about a little more than a year ago, year and a half ago. I saw this video with Jordan Peterson, and he's talking about his daughter who had severe allergies. And he said that she had gone on an all-meat diet eventually. She'd done all these elimination diets. And she had really healed herself of some terrifically distressing problems. So, okay, all right, well, I'll try that. I'll just eat nothing but meat. So this is in late July of 2018. I thought, I'll just eat nothing but meat. So I went on this all-meat diet, and I did that for about 3 months. Now, why did I do that? I went to do that because Peterson said that he had also gone on the all-meat diet, and that many problems that he had psychologically and in terms of depression and other things had cleared up. Some of the things that his daughter had, but he also lost 7 pounds every month for 7 months. He lost 50 pounds without intending to, and he wasn't a guy who really needed to lose a lot of weight. But that's what had happened. So I thought, well, if you can just eat meat, but I didn't have any idea what the meat was actually doing, to facilitate weight loss. So I did this for about 3 months, and no grains, nothing, just nothing but meat. And I tell you, I felt amazingly better, and had more energy. Everything was just much, much better. And I began to research exactly, what's causing this. And I ran into a number of videos. They're easy to find on YouTube of people who are doing what's called a ketogenic diet. Now, I found out what that was. What it is essentially is that you get your body burning ketones instead of carbohydrates. And there's a way you do that that's no secret. It's not very difficult. Well, it's kind of difficult to do for some people, but there's no secret to it. You cut out your carbohydrates. And I ran into this lady who actually had helped cure her, this doctor who'd helped cure her mother of cancer, and she was a strong advocate of the ketogenic diet. And her recommendation was to start by keeping your carbohydrates below 20 grams a day. And my doctor thought that's pretty drastic, but he's a diabetic himself, and he had classified me as diabetic or pre-diabetic. I don't know what those terms mean exactly. And in September of 2018, my A1C was 6.5, and he said, well, that's pretty good for someone who's a diabetic or pre-diabetic. Now, I wasn't taking any medication. But anyway, I started, determined, this is around in December of 2018, I'm going to have nothing but nothing more than 20 carbs a day. And so I did that. And I did it, by the way, without cheating or with exception from the day I started to right now. And what happened was I began to lose more and more weight. And right now, eating only 20 carbs a day, my weight's down from originally from about 240 to 245, somewhere there, around there, fluctuating between 35 and 45. My weight's down to about 180. I hit pretty close to going into 170 now. I haven't weighed 170 pounds, 180 pounds since 1995, 1996. And I'm wearing, like this, for instance, this sweater right here I'm wearing. I haven't worn this for 24 years. And, okay, you say, okay, well, you cut your carbs and you dropped your carbs and you lost a lot of weight. That's right, I did. But here's the really cool thing, is that it wasn't one day I ever went hungry. There wasn't one day that I deprived myself of food that I liked and enjoying food. I just didn't eat the carbohydrates. And I kept my carbs down below 20. Now, in September of this year, I did another blood test. And my doctor said, call me in, I want to go over your blood test. And I said, fine. So he's going over it, and then a lot of things look good. He said, now your cholesterol's a little high. I can't remember which one, HDL or whatever it is. But I find out that's fairly common on a ketogenic diet. And it's really not all that much of a problem for most people, as long as the fats that you eat don't encounter a lot of sugars. That seems to me to be the deadly combination, is when you're loading your body with fats and with carbohydrates and sugars at the same time. And that's a formula for disaster. But if you can deprive yourself of the carbs, get your body burning ketones, your mind will be clearer, everything else will work better in your body. And my doctor's going through the blood test, and he says, well, let's take a look at your A1C. And he looked at it, and I could see his eyes widen, and he said, your A1C is 5.4. And the young guy who was his assistant was taking notes during our session. He's about 20 years old. He looked up and he said, that's my A1C. He said, and my doctor said, well, that's good for anybody. I said, you mean I'm not pre-diabetic anymore, or diabetic, or whatever that is? He said, I don't know, but your A1C is perfectly good. Well, but beyond that, there are all kinds of effects besides weight loss. And I told my wife, after several months of eating low carb, I said, you know, my thinking is so much clearer, and my energy is so steady. And everything is just better. And also, I had arthritis that had really given me a lot of pain and all that. And what I found was the inflammation in my body significantly reduced. So I haven't had any arthritic medicine to reduce arthritic pain. I was taking, what I would do is I would be hurting from arthritis, and I would take the standard medicine that people take. I can't remember what the name of it is, but I would take it for like 2 or 3 days to try to get the inflammation down. And then I could go for a period of time without taking it. I didn't like to take it because I knew it was really hard on your stomach and all that. And but the thing is that the last time I took that medicine to reduce inflammation and reduce arthritic pain has been like about a year and 2 months ago. And after that, the arthritis, you know, I can still feel there's arthritis there, and stuff, but it's not painful at all. I can get up, I have freedom of movement and all that. That's all gone pretty much because the inflammation has been significantly reduced. And there are other issues about inflammation in my body that I know are significantly better. Okay, so now why am I telling you all this? because it's about much more than just weight loss. And if you're a despondent because you think I'm just getting old and I can't lose weight, what is happening more than likely is your metabolism is broken, that your insulin levels are way too high. And the whole idea of depriving yourself of the carbohydrates is not just deprivation. There's a reason you're doing it. And the reason you're doing it is to stabilize your blood sugar, to keep it from spiking. And when that spikes, of course, it sweeps all the sugars into the cells in the form of fats, and then you become insulin resistant. You can't lose weight at all. So the whole point of low carb is to stabilize the blood sugar. And when that happens, inflammation reduces because you starve the culture of inflammation in your body that feeds off the carbohydrates, and you have more steady energy all the time. You're more alert, you feel better, you think clearer, and the brain apparently functions much better burning ketones than it does burning carbohydrates. So without exercising, without killing yourself on some kind of gerbil activity like a treadmill, without starving myself at the age of 72, simply by keeping my carbohydrates below 20 grams a day, I've been able to lose, well, close to 70 pounds. And I've got probably about 15 or 20 pounds to go to be at my weight when I was going to graduate school in 1969 and 1970. And like I said, I haven't weighed 180 pounds since, I don't know, 1997 or something like that. So anyway, I'm doing this video to offer people who have been in my situation and not known what to do because they know they're not eating too much, they're not being pigs, they're not chowing down on stuff that people accuse them of chowing down on. I want them to understand that there is hope, but you've got to do something to break the carb addiction. So I'm a carbaholic, I know it, and like an alcoholic who cannot handle the alcohol because of the addiction, I'm a carbaholic. Not because I garbaged a lot of carbohydrates, but because my body can't tolerate it, even in really what you would call normal amounts that most people eat. They go on and don't think about it at all. But I can't do that. And there are a lot of people like me. For some reason, you know, as far as inheritance or whatever, we just cannot take the amount of carbs that other people can. But we can lose weight, we can feel great, and we can have a normal life, but we have to address our carb addiction, and we'll lose the weight that we need to lose so we can really feel good and live life. I told my wife, I said, look, just with the inflammation reduction, if I didn't lose another ounce, just with having steady energy, thinking clearer, and having inflammation reduced in my body, that alone would keep me on this forever. So I don't break the diet at all. It doesn't feel like a diet, and I've completely actually lost my taste. I don't know what I would do if I had a whole bunch of stuff with a whole bunch of carbs, like Reese's Cups and stuff like that. I have no idea. But I don't think I would have a good reaction in my body. That's my guess. So anyway, I offer this video up to you. I hope it's helpful to you. I don't, recommend you just do this willy-nilly, but I recommend that you research into it. And for God's sakes, don't ask your doctor because your doctor is not likely. And my doctor was very sympathetic. He was amazed, and because he's a diabetic himself, he was very encouraging to me. That's good. But I had another friend whose doctor was not, and he did this in spite of his doctor's recommendation, lost about 40 pounds. He was on 7 pills a day as far as diabetes go. He told me that he reduced it to 1 pill a day, eating ketogenic diet. And, one of the last times he wrote me, he said, for 4 or 5 days last week, he said, I didn't even take any diabetic medicine pills because I didn't need any to keep my sugar level steady. So then his doctor did his blood test and said, you know, this is the best blood test. I don't know what you're doing, but this is the best blood test you've had in 20 years. So for some of us, ketogenic diet is kind of miraculous, and it may be for you. And if it is, I think you'll feel better and you'll feel renewed instead of like, I'm just getting older and there's nothing I can do about it. So anyway, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I'm not starting any program on how to do ketogenic. I'm not looking for any. I just want to share this, and I hope it's helpful to you. And have a happy Thanksgiving.